You are now tuned to BS3 Network. BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.
It's Queen3 and King. It's Queen3 and King. It's Queen3 and King. Queen3 and King, we the team, it's going down. We the talk of the town, it's going down. We royalty, wear our crowns, it's going down. Tune in now, it's going down. Queen3 and King, we the team, it's going down. We the talk of the town, it's going down. We royalty, wear our crowns, it's going down. Tune in now, it's going down. It's Queen3 and King on BS3 Network.
That intro is fire. Still getting used to rolling that instead of our original one. Welcome to another episode of Queen3 and King. I am your host, King Doc. You see the queens. We'll get to their introductions in just a second. Today's episode, Women in Sports, with our special guest host, Carita Parks, the CEO of Double Take Sports and overall sports journalist extraordinaire. We lost a season queen. She out in the country, so they haven't still pumped daylight out that way. So hopefully we'll get her back in just a moment. But since she's out, we'll start with the educator queen, known as Meba. TT is the Tulsa queen. I think she's just about gotten the rash off of her left ankle cleared up from the monitor. She can come and go freely. In fact, she was out on spring break. Talk to us, Queen.
Good evening. Boy, and stop telling people I got a rash. I'm trying to get a man.
So you want to talk about your spring break? I think you was one of only a few of us. I don't think Lily went anywhere. I didn't go anywhere. So you want to talk about your spring break at all? Give a shout out to your people.
Yeah. Shout out to my people. We went to Dripping Springs, rented a lovely, beautiful home in the hills with a nice main house and a barn dominium.
Okay.
Had a good time. Messed up my knee playing human tic-tac-toe, but I won.
Is that like Naked Twister or is that different?
Oh, man. Nobody playing no Naked Twister. You seen my body?
Yeah, that rash probably makes it hard to play Naked Twister. But anyway.
Thank you, Lord.
All right. Then next, we got the season queen back, also known as Boney Maroney, Skinny Minnie, Darling Nikki, the Glamour herself, and we lost her again, so we're going to get back to her in a minute.
Keep going.
Okay. There she goes. All right, just say something to the people before we lose you for good.
Help us, Jesus.
That's all you want to say to her?
Yeah.
Oh, what did you ask me? I didn't hear you whenever I went out.
I just did your regular introduction, so you can just say hi to the people now.
Oh, hey, guys. I hope you guys had a wonderful day.
Mm-hmm. And you want to say what color you put on the on your number?
Move on. That's why you can't even find the words. Move on.
I mean, when you put color on that, do you put color while it's on, or do you take it off and do it in the sink? Hey, people want to know.
Neither. You do neither. Now move on.
Yeah.
All right.
When it's braids, it's neither.
When it's braids, it's neither.
Just don't even respond, Mika.
Okay.
Don't say nothing, Meek.
And last, but well, not last today, but next we have our baby queen, known as Mama Lee, formerly known as Blake's mama. Now she's firmly entrenched in the corner of Bronx, which might not be long, because every time you call their house, he fussing at somebody, like he did today. And he was happy that Kay was home, because when I called, he either fussing at people or looking out the second story window at the high school across the street, yelling at them like they can hear his ass.
And waving. Hey y'all, how are y'all?
Yeah, I called Mama today, and that joker was talking trash from the second story window, and
Oh,
Mama's
he
like, "They can't
always
hear you."
does. Oh, and now when he has something and you go to take it, that sucker take off running.
Yeah, and trust me,
He
the hit,
does.
the harder he gonna be to catch.
Yeah.
All right, and last but certainly not least, we have Mrs. Parks here. And before I allow her to say hello, this is probably going to take about 10 minutes of the show because when I say she got the bio, matter of fact, I'm going to do it in halves. I'm going to do it in segments and quarters. Her bio, no, I'm going to read as much of it as I can. So again, we have Carita Parks here. Of course, she is a dynamic communications professional with an background in public relations and sports journalism. Carita is the CEO of Parks Public Relations, LLC, a strategic communications agency, and founder of Double Take Sports, an online media platform that features stories about athletes and professional sports. With her background in both PR and sports, she has the unique ability to showcase both sides of the story. We got to hear about that, both sides of the story. Somebody write that down. Carita's journey towards PR and journalism was not a straight path. At a young age, she aspired to be a broadcast journalist. That's key to this conversation as well. At a young age. However, with her combined passion for media, writing, and storytelling, she decided to pursue a degree in public relations. I'm in public relationships. She's in public relations. After a few years in the professional workforce, Carita was inspired to start her own strategic communications agency specializing in PR and branding for businesses and sports. Some of her accomplishments include she was the creative, innovative strategies for the Bottom Line Sports Show, which was produced by Penny Hardaway. She's done whole Black Enterprise Golf and Tennis Weekend, the McDonald's All-American Basketball Game, Ray Lewis's Summer Days, and many more. She is currently a freelance journalist, regularly covering the NFL. Not much of the NFL because she's doing the Commanders. So, they hadn't been, we'll get into that in a minute. The WNBA, NBA, including the Washington Wizards, again, the Commanders and the Washington Mystics. She was previously a contributing writer for USA Today's Redskins Wire. And of course, member of certain affiliations such as Women in Sports and Events, the Washington Women in PR, and in the past, she has served as a board of directors for the International Association of Minority Women in PR and the Woman Behind the Business. So, as I said before the show, behind the stage, in the green room, so to speak, I told her, I said, from what I can see, you working 6 days a week, maybe 7. Carita,
Yes.
how are you sleeping? Talk to my people.
I'm doing good. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me. That might be the first time someone's read my entire bio. So
I think it's
I was
worth it.
thinking, because once you put your bio, once you write the bio, put it on the website, you kind of don't look at it anymore as the person is talking about. So to hear it is kind of funny. I'm like, you know what? I remember. Okay.
See, my bio is like a tagline. It's just one sentence. So I don't know. He went to South Garland High School.
Yeah.
I think earlier in my professional life, I might have been talking to Mika about this, but I'm like, shit, I ain't got nothing to put down. I went to South Garland High School. Yeah, that's how.
Listen, you're clearly doing your thing.
Right.
Yeah, since then, I have done a little something. So I wanted, one of the biggest reasons we have you on, and I talk to people about this quite frequently, even our guest next week, Miss Molly Brazil, who's going to be on the participation playbook. And I tell her we got a lot of, first of all, just in our family. And as you know, this is a family show. And so we have a lot of, I got nieces and and nephews, and I got little cousins and granddaughters and people who, you know, need to see people like this doing what, you know, so they can know it's possible. You know, oftentimes I tell people that if people don't see us model greatness, they don't know that greatness is attainable, you know. So it's important sometimes that we just give it the effort. We just try, you know. Matter of fact, me and Nikki were was talking about my nephew and him possibly, or his friends wanted to do something on the network. And I remember when he went to the men's conference with me the first time, and the look on his face when he saw me in a public speaking role, he never said anything to me about it, but I saw it changed the way he looked at me, you know. And so as a result, I said, you know, I got to keep making sure that I'm trying to imitate that greatness. I'm trying to illustrate that greatness. I'm trying to demonstrate this because people need to see it. Our young people need to see it. And Carita, that's why we have you on. So in your bio, you mentioned that at a young age, you wanted to be a broadcast journalist. Talk to us a little bit about that and how that came about.
Yeah. So when I was younger, when I was watching the news, back then the news wasn't as depressing either. So I would watch the news every day when I was younger, but I started writing news scripts. So that's kind of when I started knowing, like, okay, so I got some writing ability, but I started writing news scripts, and just at that point is when I decided, you know what, I want to do broadcast journalism. Just watching the news, seeing the anchors, it just was something that I gravitated towards. So that was the plan. But as I got older, things changed. And I was like, you know, you become more realistic when you get older. It's not that I couldn't do it. It was just realistically, broadcast journalists just didn't get paid well. So I was like, well, and not only that, I grew up in Florida. Also, I grew up in Florida. And I was like, I am not about to be out here. Like, they have news anchors who just, you know, are sports anchors, just the ones who anchor the news. If a hurricane comes, they are still in the studio. And I was like, no, that will not be me. So that kind of changed the game a little bit. But I still love media. So I was like, well, what can I do where I still have an opportunity to interact on the media side, but not necessarily be a journalist. So that's kind of how I ended up going into PR, because PR involves interacting with the media quite a bit. And then also I felt like I'd be able to use a lot more of my skills in PR. So that's how I ended up going that route. So either, you know, the getting into broadcast journalism and liking it, it did open my eyes, I think, to ultimately where I wanted to end up going.
Yeah. People who watch the show frequently will tell you that I always say, if when somebody's talking, I'm writing a lot of notes down, that's how you know this is going to be a good show, you know, because they are saying things to me that are inspiring questions and follow-up that I don't already have. Right. And y'all, my queens, if y'all have any questions, because I know y'all have some, just jump in anytime you want to. We're, again, like I told Carita, we are informal, and, you know, this ain't, you know, you ain't got to talk around here. So we're going to get a couple of comments from our viewers. We got Aunt Weeda in the building. She goes, hey, my beautiful family.
Hi, Aunt Weeda.
I see she done changed her little profile pic where she got the little Prince thing in the covering up her left eye.
Is that another family member?
It is.
Yeah.
I was asking if it was another family member. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And this is also. Yeah,
it's a whole lot of us.
Yeah. My mom has 6 sisters and 3 brothers, so obviously they've had kids, and those kids are starting to have kids, and those kids are having kids. So it's a lot of us. And this is kinfolk too. This is Nick with Holy Smokes. He just started his own barbecue deal not too long ago, and because he was raised in the church, he named his place Holy Smokes.
Holy, hallelujah.
Hallelujah. She said, she says Leah was calling your name in the car after you left when they called. Okay. And then this ain't family, but it's just like family, because she is right there with us. And let me put it to you like this. If you're ever in Texas, remind us to have her make you some of these sliders that she make. The girl makes sliders, and it's like she pray over them before she serve them.
That's what my grandmother's from Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What town is she from? Do you know?
Honestly, all over Texas, Abilene, Abilene, Texas. Though that's where she's from. And then I have an uncle.
Out west.
Yeah, my uncle's in Austin, outside of Austin, in Kyle, Texas, and I got family all over Texas.
Okay, that's what's up. That's what's up. And then we got Ben Sutter III, the gentleman who put the BS in BS3 Network, as we lovingly say. And he might be walking in the door pretty soon to pick up some stuff. So if he comes and interrupts, then he about the only one that can get away with it. He says good evening. Yeah. So you say you talked about it at a young age, and did you have anybody that you were kind of going to that were trying to guide you along as you were trying to go? Did you try to seek out a mentor? Did you have somebody in the family that was older that you respected? How did that go?
That's interesting because someone asked me that question recently, and I was really thinking about it. And I wouldn't say, my mom was always very supportive of what I wanted to do. So I could definitely always share what I was doing with her or share what I wanted to do. Like she knew broadcast journalism when I was younger was what I was striving for. But other than that, when I started to get in college, I had more mentors, but that was more on the PR side because I did a lot of internships. And back then you were doing free internships, so you had to be real passionate about what you wanted to do if you were doing a free internship. Yeah. But I met a lot of great people during that process. And like I said, that was more on the PR side. But when I was young and I was kind of coming into my own, it's interesting because I was really decisive. I feel like at a young age, you're not as decisive. But once I decided I wanted to do broadcast journalism, I stuck with that. I went into college thinking broadcast journalism was the track that I was going to take. And then it was just then when I started thinking more about my options that I decided to go into PR. But that was really interesting about me when I really think about it is I was fairly decisive. And like I said, my mom, my family, I talked to them a lot and they were supportive, but there wasn't anyone I necessarily when I was younger went to as a mentor other than that.
Okay. And if I ask you anything too personal, don't be afraid to say I'm not answering that. But again, well, see, because your answers are, and I heard Ben walking in the door. Don't be stealing nothing either. What's up, old boy? Come on, peek your head in there. I told him you Carita, you know Carita? Yeah. So yeah, Ben, that's why he wanted to come over. He like, I've been knowing Carita for a long. They're gonna try to say I've been knowing her longer than you, is what he was trying to tell me. But anyway, your answer, you said decisiveness. And so the reason why that brought up something is because when I ran into you at the Twitch Center night at the Super Bowl, you was moving around the place in a very decisive manner. Me and Sean, my camera guy for the week, around like this and moving real slowly and trying to feel our way, So that decisiveness is what I saw all week long. So my question is that do you commonly travel like to events like that by yourself representing Double Take Sports? Do you have staff that you take, stuff like that? Because every time I ran into you, it seemed like you were just kind of rocking by yourself. But, at the luncheon thing, I saw you sitting with some friends. So I didn't know if those were people that you met over the years or what's that situation like?
Yeah, so I do want staff. I do want staff. I don't currently have staff at this particular moment. Okay. But to back up a little bit, I started Double Take two years ago during the pandemic. So it's still fairly new company. Right. I feel like as a company, I'm continuing to build my brand. as Carita, I was doing a lot of freelance reporting already. So, I think as a reporter and journalist, I have that brand recognition, but I'm still building that for Double Take Sports. So I started mostly by myself. So at Super Bowl, I was with people that I know in the industry and through the industry.
Right, okay.
But yeah, I was definitely. And also when I get into those situations, to your point, even if I come in with people, I still go off and do my own thing because in my mind, there's certain people I want to talk to. When you are at Super Bowl, you only have a limited amount of time, especially at opening night. And this just comes from also having been there a couple times. The time that you have to talk to those athletes, and you're also competing with other reporters. It's like you got to kind of start trying to move in my mind, I'm like, I got to start moving about, or I'm not going to get content because it's a zoo.
Yeah,
so
no, you're right. Yeah,
I do get real focused in those situations, but yeah, a lot of times I do kind of rock by myself because I'm still building. Like I said, I'm still building relationships and meeting people and still trying to the things that Double Take Sports isn't necessarily credentialed for yet. I'm trying to build those relationships so that we can get credentialed. And then from a staff perspective, would definitely now I'm starting to see like, okay, it's time to transition into building a staff. Obviously, in starting the company, I knew I always wanted staff, but now it's becoming more imperative the more I do. Also, the fact of the matter is I can't be everywhere. So also building a trusted staff is important too. I have found it can be very difficult to find people who you can trust who are also good at their job, because they're going to be in situations. I mean, you can't have anyone, especially when it comes to like the NFL, NBA, even WNBA. I mean, all these leagues, they don't play. If they hear someone asking a question or acting like a fan or asking an offensive question, and it might not even be on purpose, but it could just be inexperience. They'll be quick to revoke credentials. So you kind of got to be careful with that too. But yeah, the ultimate goal is to build a staff because I want Double Take Sports to be a pathway for other reporters, younger reporters and journalists, and individuals that have a passion for this. Because even for me, it wasn't mainstream media that gave me opportunities. It was independent companies and independent journalists that gave me opportunities.
Yeah, and I was going to kind of ask when you mentioned just your passion early on, were there any any barriers that you experienced trying to get into the field of journalism?
Definitely. So it's twofold. I will say when I first decided I wanted to go into the journalism path. So as you heard, my background's in PR. So I was doing some PR with a woman who had her own company, sports company as well, who had been successful in building her company, building a staff, etc. And so I was doing PR for her. And then I ended up in that time period going to Super Bowl in Phoenix with the company. But that exposed me to the reporters that she had on her staff. And it kind of just brought back full circle that passion I had about journalism when I was younger. So that's kind of how I entered the business. But it was because I entered through someone who already trusted me and had already seen my work on the PR side. So getting in was actually easier than I would have expected. But also I think it was because at that point I was in PR. I was happy. I had more of a shift of perspective when I participated in that. So getting in was easier than I anticipated. But I will say, in working in the industry, especially when you are independent media, it is tough you got to work hard to gain that respect.
Right.
Because they automatically respect the big like the ESPNs, the NBC Sports, like they automatically respect those journalists and reporters. So it's almost like you have to work extra hard to prove that you should be in it, you should be in the game too. And even when you do prove that, I've had situations where just because I am Double Take Sports is independent, or maybe I'm partnering with another independent company, where it's still been hard, no matter what that resume looks like, to get in certain doors. Like I've had situations where I've had to email and reinforce my experience. Like it shouldn't matter, and reinforce the company's experience as well. So that's been a barrier. But then just also as a woman in sports, I think naturally sometimes, and it's sad to have to say naturally, you even then, and a Black woman in sports, even then, it's once again, so if you're with an independent outlet and then a Black woman in sports, you also have to be sure you're conducting yourself at the utmost professionalism, right? Which our counterparts don't necessarily have to think about that.
Right.
So that's something that is constantly in the back of my mind. It's like, okay, I got to be on my best behavior. And I wouldn't be anyway, but I do know as a Black woman in the industry that it's even more important that I am.
As a Black woman professional, period.
Yeah.
I was about to say.
Yeah, and
But
I
your
will
best
say,
behavior is 10 times better than everybody else's, you know.
Yeah, and I will say that you do a fantastic job of emanating that professionalism. It just comes across naturally as you move about, but you don't do it in a way that you're not standoffish at all. You're very welcoming, you know. Yeah, I know some of it probably has to do with the fact that I'm a handsome guy and I approach, and you're probably
oh my Lord.
But what I'm saying is, is that a lot of times when people are focused on their profession and they're at work, they can't be personal at the same time, right? Or they can't be pleasant. They can't be pleasant at the same time because they don't understand the concept of personal professionalism, you know. And when I say she was super welcoming every time I ran into her, she really was treating me as if that's my old friend, you know, whatever. Even when I ran into her at the second event, some of the people she was sitting with, she goes, hey, this is my old, you know, she was just as cool as anything, but you still saw her moving in a professional manner as she did her stuff, you know. And so my sisters and our viewers know what I feel about AJ Jones, AJ Jones. He's been 40 years in radio, you know, on air radio. And I would call Carita just as quickly as I would call AJ for advice about certain things. And maybe even more so because she's at a stage that BS3 network is as a whole when it comes to, so we've been in 2019, but we've only recently started trying to increase our getting credentialed at certain events, and we've recently added about 5 to 6 staff members, where we got 2 or 3 staff writers, a couple of editors, a new creative services director, you know, things of that nature. So we are in very similar points of progress in terms of our corporate organizational structure and how we're moving about. So, and it is tricky. Hey, some of these, when you're trying to get credentialed and stuff like this, some of these people who are in charge of that sort of thing, they've been in positions for quite some time, and they are in no hurry to try to get you your information. And that's if they reply to you at all. Do you see are you getting some of the same types of experiences with that?
I mean, yeah, it's hit or miss. It is hit or miss. And it can be frustrating as well. Especially, you know, we know the experience we have, but to your point, depending on the league you're dealing with, they don't necessarily feel like they need you. That's right. Because people are clamoring to cover their leagues. And to be fair, like when I think about the WNBA, they're super welcoming because they want that coverage. So you hear back from them. But like I said, you have other leagues where it's like, I mean, it's nice if you cover us, but we don't really
Right.
need you to cover us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
right.
that's kind of the vibe you get.
Yeah. And that's why it was surprising to me, because the NFL in our first major experience with them, they were super welcoming and accommodating to us. They rolled out the red carpet to us like we was ESPN, you know. So they treated us very kindly throughout the week, and they were forthright. Sometimes they give you too much information. You'd be like, okay, I couldn't publish all this stuff if I had the time, but they want to make sure you have it, you know. So they are really professional in the sense. That's right.
Yeah, once you're
they're trying to make
in,
sure you have it. Mm-hmm.
That's the key, is getting in. And then once
Yeah.
you're in, you know, unless something goes left, you're pretty
Yeah.
much in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to be kind of sensitive, because again, as you're dealing with athletes and coaches and field staff, for instance, one of the things that I just kind of lucked into being there is interviewing Mr. Pappas, who was over the field there at the stadium. And then they had issues with that game, right? You know, so that was some of me trying to contact him afterwards and like, hey, you want to comment on this? We kind of talked before. You want to, because you take it. Got to be careful with that kind of stuff too, so he don't be like, man, if you don't get the hell out of here, you know, whatever. So navigating some of those waters, you know, I'm talking about his sensitivity as well as some of the sensitivity of certain athletes. You know, some athletes, you know, having the good fortune of being around professional athletes over the years, some of them a little bit more than others, and they're watching everything that is printed, and they Google searching to see what's new out there and stuff like that. So some of them can kind of make the waters difficult for you to navigate as well. A couple of comments. So Ben commented and says, Carita, you do an amazing job.
Thank you.
And then we got CJ in the building. He goes, good evening, everyone. What's going on,
Hey,
CJ?
CJ.
All right, Nikki, you said you had something from a question that was given to you for Miss Parks.
Yes. My son, Kyler, my 22-year-old son, wanted me to personally ask you if you know Miss Taylor Rooks personally.
I don't know Taylor Rooks personally. I see, but she has been at Super Bowls, mostly Super Bowls. Ironically, I've seen her a lot at Super Bowl. Unfortunately, I don't know her in person, but I have seen her interact with some of my colleagues, and she seems very friendly. Like, you can tell when someone's not. She seems to have a consistent personality to what we see on her like video interviews and social media. So I've definitely seen her in action and interacting.
Okay. Well, he wanted, if you did know her, he wanted you to hook him up.
It sounds like he's crushing over there.
Well,
It sounds like he's crushing.
Now that I know, tell him next time I see her, I'll make an effort.
Yeah, he said because she's fine.
Wow. Yeah. Now, and she brings out a good point, right? She says you can tell how she kind of interacts, that she's friendly and whatnot. And hey, I don't know if you caught any of the show a couple of weeks ago, but we had a major. No, I ain't scared. We had a major sports journalist here that we had on the show, and he was, again, the vibe that we get from you, the vibe that we got from our guest the following week is completely different. So, you know, sometimes you can get some of us who think they're bigger stars than the people we're covering, you know. Like you got, for instance, the Stephen A. Smiths of the world. I don't know if I told y'all this, but when Stephen A. Smith was moving around the media center at the Super Bowl, there was 20 people, journalists following him, trying to get stuff from him just as much as they were when Emmitt Smith is walking. You know, they had 15, 20, 25 people that were, you know, so some of the personalities. The
facts are true. Stephen A. Smith had an entourage of people following him. And they weren't his people. You know, they were people trying to get at him to try to get, you know, quotes or sound bites or whatever the case may be. And when I say just as hot a commodity as
anybody who walked in. The next biggest crowd I saw was actually Sean Payton. And I think that was on Thursday or Friday. He didn't come until late in the week. Where he was doing what they call a gangbang. I don't know why they call it that, but where a bunch of media were around him getting, trying to figure out work, because I don't think he had signed. With Denver just yet. See. Anyway, do any of y'all have any questions before I go into some of the questions that I have?
I have one question.
Okay.
What would you advise? What advice would you give our younger generation, the little girls that are wanting to be like you? What kind of how would you tell them to interact and what to do to get into the sports and to be a journalist?
So first of all, I would say practice your craft. Continue to practice your craft and get better. That would be my first advice. I'd also say be open to different types of sports. And I say that because
that's a good one.
Yeah, when I start, because sometimes we can get so fixated on what we want to cover, and it might not happen like that, but you might get to where you want to go by being open to covering another sport. For me, I started off, I was in PR, but I knew I loved sports back then, so I wanted to do sports PR. I started off working in the golf industry, which was not at all on my radar screen.
Right.
It really ended up being a blessing in the sense of I saw golf in such a different way. Because we see in the organization I work for was the First Tee. It's a national organization. Like they have chapters across US and also international. But I got to see a lot of minorities in sports through golf. And you don't think that when you think of golf.
Right.
Like we see like the Tiger Woods and the PGA Tour, but there are a lot of Black and brown folks that are golf professionals and teaching these young kids how to golf and teeing up the next generation of golfers. So seeing that, it was interesting, but golf was never something that was on my radar. So all these years later, now that I have double take sports, because I worked in golf, that is something that I want to bring to the spotlight, is different stories that I know of just because of that experience. But me being open to doing something different is what got me there. And so I would definitely say just be open to different sports, because it can ultimately get you to where you want to go. And if anything, it's experience in the sports industry.
Right.
So I definitely say that. And don't give up, because you're going to hear a lot of no's.
Right.
There are going to be people that question your expertise. There's going to be people that question you, and you just have to have a thick skin. And I'm not saying, because at the end of the day, it's bothersome. Even the most confident person can get bothered at some point. So, like, feel their emotions, but don't let it stop you from moving forward. So just don't take no for an answer. Regroup. Sometimes you might have to re-strategize.
Right.
Yeah.
And figure out a different way to get to where you go, but just don't give up. Don't take no for an answer. And my last thing would be, don't be scared to ask for what you want. Either.
Right.
Because if I was doing PR for the organization that's got me further into the door of sports journalism. And if I never asked her if I could start writing for her on the sports journalism side, I'm not going to say I wouldn't be where I am today, but I may not have had the opportunity to be thrust in that situation in the way that I was.
Wow. Love it.
Don't be afraid to ask for what you want, because at the end of the day, if someone says no, that doesn't really change who you were before they said no.
Right.
Yeah, love it. Love it. We're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to talk to you about how BS3 Network, and more specifically, Ben and I deal with the no's that we get. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for something to do on your lunch break? Well, there's a show on the BS3 Network that has only 4 words to say to you.
We ready. We ready. We ready for y'all. We ready. We ready. We ready for y'all.
The Lunch Break with AJ, powered by JM&E. Live weekdays at noon Central.
Welcome back to Queen3 King. We are here with Carita Parks, CEO of Double Take Sports and sports journalist phenomenon. As you see, you can see why Cole Johnson, who produced that commercial right there, that is why that joker is the creative services director of BS3 Network.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Hey, I want you, when you're feeling down, play that commercial and see if you don't get hype about your business, you know. But anyway, so Carita was talking about some advice that she was give to, you know, some of our younger viewers and whatnot who may have an interest in getting into this field. And so one of the things that I wanted to talk about is how BS3, we deal with no. So Ben and I probably communicate 5 times a day on average, right? Minimum. And so a lot of those communications are based on no's that we've gotten from one place or another. And the only one who I can say exactly what I feel about them knows. So sometimes he'll send me an email about something and I'll reply with nothing but a cuss word. But then, like Carita says, we re-strategize. We say, okay, how we need to change our approach on this.
Yeah.
Or, you know, sometimes it could be as simple as the number of credentials you asked for was not a significant enough number for them to give you any credit. You feel what I'm saying? They're like, well, okay, no, we got bigger spots that we need to fill with this particular type of credential. You know, you can have this, but not this, you know, sort of thing, you know. So, and I think that some of the other leagues can learn from the NFL because, again, the NFL at this point, they don't need somebody like me to be covering their sport. You know, they're great. I mean, they the beast, right? They the big kids on the block, you know, but maybe that's why they the big kids on the block, because they do give a joker like me, you know, some credit and an opportunity, you know. And then to add and to piggyback off some of the advice that Carita has given, I would say do what we're doing right now, which is building and defining relationships. Because building relationships, you can forget it. It's about relationship building. There is really no career out there that building relationships is not essential to. You got to be a relationship builder. I guarantee you. And if you're not, you can forget about it.
That's very true.
Lily, anybody got anything before I jump back in?
Can I ask?
Sure.
This is off topic. I know we were talking about relationships, and that is big in a career. Tech took it right out of my mouth. But who is your favorite athlete?
That's a good question. I think now I'm so caught up in covering the sports that I don't even think about who is my favorite. So as of recent, not last season though, but one of my favorite athletes is Russell Wilson. And he still is.
Really?
But I don't know what happened to him last season. But,
Really?
Yeah. I don't know, but I have always liked his game. Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah, I think Mika and Lily are fans of Russell Wilson. In his relationship with Sierra and how they kind of get down. He takes a lot of
oh,
from our community. He takes a lot of heat from our community for some strange reason. But I think I like Russell as a guy myself. Yeah, he had an off season. Hopefully, with Sean Payton in, they can kind of get that corrected now.
I was hoping she was going towards my basketball favorite,
Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
who's your basketball favorite?
Kobe Bean.
Oh, Bean.
Yeah.
Kobe Bean.
Rest in peace. Yeah. Kobe, I cannot take away from his greatness. He was never one of my favorite athletes, though.
Really?
But
Really?
I can't take away from his greatness. He definitely had that killer instinct that I feel is fewer and far between these days.
Yeah.
And I can definitely appreciate that about him. I'll say that.
Yeah,
On basketball
I like
side,
him.
I mean, I don't know why I like the older school. Like I was a Vince Carter fan. I was an Allen Iverson fan.
Oh, AI. I love AI.
Yeah.
The answer. Go ahead.
Speaking of basketball, I know you had some thoughts.
He mad as hell.
John Moran and his recent PR issues, so to speak. So give us some of your take on that situation. What do you think about that, and what advice would you give him?
I like John Morant in general. I think he is one of the most, as of recent, one of the more talented younger players coming up.
I completely agree. Mm-hmm.
I think that he has the ability to be great. I mean, he's been called like the next big thing in the NBA. So that's one thing. I definitely think sometimes with those younger athletes, you come into the league so young and you still want to do what you would do if you were out with your friends. And it's just like, no, you are Ja Morant. Like you play those games. And I think he has to be smarter than that. You cannot be flashing a gun on social media. He had a string of bad PR before that, and I can't remember everything. Also, I'm gonna say his father needs to chill too, though, because the people who are around you, they do affect your brand too. And so,
absolutely,
for him to run up on Shannon Sharp, in my opinion, I think he should just let it be what it is. Shannon Sharp didn't try to physically attack Ja. I don't think he was talking to Ja. His beef wasn't really with Ja.
No.
Right.
And then I'll go back to this, but just to give you another example, because I don't want to beat up on John Morant's father, but also when you think of Patrick Mahomes, his wife and his brother, they're not good for his brand. So I mean,
thank you, Jesus. I talk about his wife all the
time. That little wife.
Yeah, it's too much, but So that's something.
And throw Dak Prescott brother in there. Tad Prescott need to sit down somewhere too.
Yeah, you gotta, and they don't think about it, but those people that you have around you who are prominent and in front of cameras, they do affect your brand too. But back to John Morant. Personally, I just think John Morant needs to be smarter. He needs to realize that the decisions that he's making, that he's lucky that he's back with the Grizzlies so fast. I think the NBA might still be doing their investigation as it relates to the gun, but at any point his career can be taken away from him, and he needs to remember that in the decisions I think that he's making. It was stupid, in my opinion, with you have a gun on social media. And then this is not his fault, though. I will say that. But whoever leaked him being at the strip club, it was just the timing of it. With the gun incident, and then that some people are going to criticize both things. In my opinion, with the strip club situation, that's bad PR, in my opinion, on the owner or whoever leaked it from the strip club because But I think Ja at this point, he needs to really focus on basketball.
Yes.
Being good, he is good, but I just think he needs to refocus on basketball and stop. Because I have been noticing even before all this happened, he just increasingly got flashier and flashier. I think he needs to humble himself a little bit. And I think I heard him talking today in a press conference. I think he has been humbled a little bit, and I hope overall he's learned lessons from this situation. And just realizes that he has to conduct himself better because he is not the Ja Morant that could be hanging out with his friends doing stupid things on social media. Like, you just can't do that.
Very true.
Yeah, I'm gonna read a couple of comments and then I'm gonna add some stuff that I just came across today on Ja. Ben says Patrick Mahomes' brother needs to be fired. Dr. Lewis, he commented on Russell Wilson and Kobe.
What did he say? Doc? Oh,
he just said Russell Wilson and Kobe. Interesting. And then he says, "Daddy is a problem for Ja." Yeah. Dad. He said, "Dad is a problem for Ja." And again, one of the things with Ja, when Daddy got a red Solo cup, that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. And CJ said, Ja Morant lucky that David Stern is not the NBA commissioner anymore. That man would have had 2 years suspension from the league. David Stern was suspended players left and right.
But that's what he has to think about because that incident escalated to the NBA level, and he probably won't get the same kind of punishment that he would have gotten in the past. But he needs to consider himself lucky and refocus, get it together.
Now what he did get, so again, this is some things that I came across on him today. Okay, him and Luka signed the same type of contract extension. It's a 5-year max extension. It's worth $192 million, or if you make an all NBA team, worth $230 million. Okay, so Luka has made an all NBA team, so his is worth 231, I think is what it is. Ja Morant would probably have made an all NBA team, and it had to happen in this particular year. And there's no way they're going to name him as all NBA on a year where he's got suspended for 8 games, etc. So literally, this situation has already cost him approximately $38 to $40 million. Okay, that is unquestionable already. Then, in addition to that, think about the number of Euro players we have in the league right now. Ja is one of a very few in his generation. In fact, he is being called the last American NBA player of his generation that can have the type of impact that a LeBron or a Kobe or a Jordan had, okay? And they said, had this not happened, he had a very realistic chance to make $1 billion in his NBA career.
Good God.
And that is Jesus. So
and that reminds me, he had an endorsement that dropped his commercials too. So I think the meter is still running on what this incident is actually going to cost him, and we won't know until probably much later in his career. So as Ben pointed out, Ja has a questionable circle, but one of the things that we don't understand, Ja was not heavily recruited out of high school.
No.
Only school that recruited him, and they weren't even going to watch him at a game. They were going to watch his teammate he
just had a breakout season.
And he was like, "Yeah, dog, who is that kid? Oh, that's a kid that can jump out the gym." He says, "Well, while I'm here getting this other kid, I might as well take him too." And so he got to Murray State, played 2 years in Murray State. So my point is, unlike your LeBrons and your Kobe's and people who were highly recruited out of high school and who were being exposed to this kind of stuff for 4, 5, 6 years before they got to the NBA, Ja wasn't. He wasn't exposed to any of this until he got there. So he's only 23 right now, but he's only been exposed to this kind of stuff for a short period of time. And think about it. Studies show that the male brain is not fully developed until age 25, right?
He about
He's
16.
age
They lying.
he's,
They lying.
age
They lying.
he's age,
They lying.
he's age
48.
28. Okay, so imagine you're age 23, your brain's not fully developed, and you got $200 million. It's a
about
recipe
16
for
years
disaster.
old.
I mean, yeah, it's a world that you got thrust into, but that's why it's also very important for who is around you to be mature.
Right.
I'm talking about, like,
Yeah,
other, not his friends, but
that's right. So yeah, he need to holler at me, because what I'm gonna do, we're gonna still go to the strip club. I'm just gonna be more careful about. Let me hold the 50,000 in ones, and I'll tell you which one to spend them on. Ben said, Ja has a questionable circle, and then Doc Lewis said Ja lost his Powerade contract due to this foolishness. Yeah, and he's fortunate. He's with the Jordan brand. He's with the Jordan brand, and I'm sure Jordan is going to give him a little bit more leeway than maybe some of these other brands might, but there's still a connection with Nike too, so he needs to be awfully careful,
Yeah.
But again, like Ben said, your circle is super important. That's why I think one of the smartest athletes out there right now with his circle is Jalen Hurts. You see who he has around him, and his manager and all his PR people. He's one of the smartest people. You have to have your circle, because if your circle's not protecting you, your brand is not going to be protected. Your brand is not going to be protected. Your money is going to be gone. So poor Ja.
And if anybody out there know Ja, tell them I know a PR person, and there's this firm called Parks PR. You may want to holler. Somebody. So sometimes you really need to get somebody that is completely separated from your normal crew, your family, your stuff like that, right? Now, I understand that that's difficult, because trying to understand who you can trust is a thing. In fact, at Super Bowl week, I talked to probably about 3 or 4 PR people, and talking that trust factor with them was very big, and I was like, sometimes they don't understand that how they conduct themselves in those kinds of settings. It's like, wait a minute, I got a nephew that may be a Division I prospect, and he may be coming and saying, hey, Unc, I know you are in sports and you've been around. You know any PR people I can talk to? Well, the one that was representing Sean Merriman acted this way. The one that was representing Devon Kennard acted this way. I would never, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm paying attention to that kind of stuff as well. So sometimes the PR people don't understand how they conducting themselves. And so therefore, sometimes these athletes getting to them is going to be difficult.
I have definitely seen my fair share of PR people where I'm very surprised. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. No doubt. All right. So we got about 3 more minutes left. So we're going to give final thoughts. There is obviously an entire page left of stuff that I was going to talk to you about. So hopefully we can do this again later. We'll keep our eyes and ears open for big time story to take place and stuff like that, and we'll get you back on and chop it up with you on that.
Right.
But we'll go around. We'll start with the season queen, educator queen, and baby queen, and then Miss Parks for our final thoughts.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come on to this podcast, and when you probably could have been doing other things, but we really appreciate you for doing that. And I really think that you're an awesome person.
Thank you.
And doing a great job. So keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
And to our listening audience, it's always a great time with you guys. And I'm glad that you guys are constantly on and supporting us. And your support means everything to us. So we thank you for that. And that's it.
All right. Mika.
Again, thanks to our listening and viewing audience. We appreciate you. To Carita, thank you for coming on our show. Thank you for giving our young girls someone to look up to, if they're heading towards this career path. So appreciate you for coming on, and we wish you luck and many blessings in your career.
Thank you.
All right, Lily.
Thank you to our listening audience. we appreciate you guys week after week. Y'all keep us alive. Y'all keep us talking. We appreciate the interaction. And to Miss Carita Parks, thanks for just being an inspiration to young Black girls that don't see themselves in that position, but they can see it in you. So one thing I want to read is a quote that you actually had on your Twitter. It said, if you don't see a clear path for what you want, sometimes you have to make it yourself. So I think that's exactly what you're doing.
Go, girl.
To just really
That's awesome.
stick it on and to go with. So
Yeah, I love
Woo, man, y'all making a girl feel good.
Like we told you, you know, we're a family show, and the people that we have on, our desire is to welcome you into the family. You know, I don't just willy-nilly put invites out there. You know, that's something that we take seriously, you know, and there are people that we not only want a professional relationship with, but a personal relationship with, you know, because I think that's important in life, right? And I extend that same thing as part owner of BS3 Network, and we got a division of BS3 Sports. We don't look at our colleagues as competitors. We really don't. We look at them as colleagues. So BS3 Network, BS3 Sports, Queen3 King, we look forward to continuing to build a relationship with you and a friend. So your final thoughts, ma'am.
I was going to say thank you for welcoming me into the family tonight. It was like a really great conversation. I really appreciated you all asked some great questions. And like I said, you know, sometimes you can be working so hard that you don't really take the time to think about the words that each of you said in your final thoughts. So I'm truly appreciative of you really bringing to light and bringing me back to why I'm doing this. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure just being here, meeting you all. Like you said, it was like just a conversation. So I truly enjoyed myself. And like I said, thanks again for having me. And it was great meeting the sisters.
We will definitely have you back on in the future. And
Carita, who's your favorite sister?
Okay, here she goes.
Oh, whose question is who's that for?
She asked you who's your favorite sister. She's trying to set you up.
No, I don't have a favorite.
Let's see. This is the test for the PR professional. See how she gets out of this.
There you go. Everybody was equally great.
You did good.
All right. So again, our guest today, Carita Parks, a very special guest. So she was the bomb, CEO of Double Take Sports, sports journalist. Let them know where they can find you. Give your social medias, give your websites, whatever, so they can support you.
You can find me at Carita C. Parks on all social media platforms. You can also follow Double Take Sports on all social media platforms at DBL Take Sports. And also visit the website, www.dbltakesports.com. But
and if we got any up-and-coming athletes, professional
I should
athletes.
also mention, follow Parks PR on Instagram at Parks PR, and the website is www.parks-pr.com.
Yeah, and if you get any athletes or just professionals that are hiring you from a PR standpoint, y'all make sure y'all let them know that Queen3 King sent so she can cut us our commission check off that situation. Yeah, no kidding. Next week, we have the participation coach with our special guest host, Molly Brazil. She's the author of the Participation Playbook. She was kind of stunned. So I got a meeting set with her later this week. She was like, y'all, you sure you want me on your podcast? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, we have a lot of professionals and team builders that listen to the show, and I even mentioned Carita on, and I'm like, this is a young entrepreneur. I said, she's going to be building a team. So the things that Molly talks about, because I've gone through some of her training years ago, and it's always affected me and how I team build. I'm like, I got people who want to know this information, Doc Lewis, for instance. I'm like, I got superintendents. We got sports journalists. We got radio professionals. people who build teams that need to hear what you got to say, you know. So I said, I understand we act a fool sometimes. I said, but I promise you, our audience and the people we have relationships with need to hear this information. So again, she has a book out called the Participation Playbook, and it's about, you know, like kind of having strategic relations and stuff like that with your staff. And I even mentioned the queens. I'm like, look, all of my sisters in leadership positions in one way or the other, you know, in corporate America. So they need this information, you know. So you don't want to miss that one. She's cool. And we're gonna welcome her just like we would anybody else. Again, we thank Carita for being here, and we will see her again down the road. You gonna be at the draft, Carita?
I don't think I'll make it to the draft because I'm going out of town the week before, and it kind of runs into the draft. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we just got our first email about that today, so hopefully we'll be able to pull that off. It is our intention for sure. Again, to our viewers out there, our supporters, we appreciate you here at Queen3 King. We appreciate you here at BS3 Network, and we will catch y'all next Tuesday at 7 p.m. We'll see y'all later.
Bye, family.
Bye, y'all.
Bro, bring the hook in. Queen3 King, we the team, it's going down. We the talk of the town, it's going down. We royalty, wear our crowns, it's going down. Tune in now, it's going down, it's going down. We just hit you with another one. It's going down, we just hit you with another one. It's going down, we just hit you with another one. Tune in now, we just hit you with another one. It's Queen3 and King. It's Queen3 and King. It's Queen3 and King. It's Queen3 and King. It's Queen3 and King on BS3 Network.